A misty morning settled over Grand Rapids, Michigan, the kind where the street lamps still glowed faintly even as dawn tried to break through the fog. The city felt hushed, the roads slick with dew, the world not quite awake. A company car, its once polished paint now dulled by years of service, pulled into the narrow parking lot of the Miller Property Management building. The sign by the entrance, Miller Property Management, since 2004, was streaked with rain from the night before, but it still carried a quiet dignity. The driver's door opened, and Jennifer Miller stepped out. Her heels clicked softly against the pavement. She wasn't flashy, not like her younger sister. Her brown hair was neatly arranged into a low bun, her navy blue suit pressed and plain. Everything about her appearance spoke of discipline and restraint. She carried no designer bags, no gleaming jewelry. Only her black leather binder was clutched firmly in her hands, the same one she had used since her very first day at the company. Jennifer's footsteps were light, but her heart was heavy. She had always been the first to arrive, the one to unlock the office while the city still slept. Today was no different. She keyed in the security code, flicked on the lights, and inhaled the familiar scent of stale carpet and old paper. Her morning ritual began as it always did. She hung her jacket neatly, rolled up her sleeves, and reached for the cleaning supplies, wiping down each desk, sweeping the polished floors, watering the potted plants. She spoke softly to one in particular, a tall, leafy green by the window. "Good morning, Benjamin," she whispered as water trickled into the soil. Benjamin wasn't just a plant, it had been a gift from her father, Robert, on her very first day in the company. Back then, it was nothing more than a tiny sprout in a clay pot. Now, after 10 years of careful tending, it had grown tall and sturdy, spreading its leaves toward the morning light. To Jennifer, it was more than decoration. It was proof of her dedication, proof that with patience and consistency, things could flourish. The office slowly brightened as the rising sun poured through the windows, catching on the golden letters of the nameplate, Miller Property Management. Her father had built the company from scratch in 2004. Back then, it was little more than a family dream. Robert's vision, Margaret's social skills, and Jennifer's quiet diligence. Over the years, it grew into one of Grand Rapids' most trusted property management firms, particularly prized for its meticulous work with Lakeview Estate, a sprawling luxury development that had remained their flagship client. Jennifer had always been proud of that. She had earned a master's degree in property management, graduating top of her class, and chose to come straight into the family business. She hadn't missed a single day in 10 years, had stayed late countless nights, and had built a reputation among clients for her sincerity and precision. But as she stood by the window this morning, watering Benjamin, her chest tightened. Because 2 years ago, everything began to unravel. The real estate market took a downturn, and profits thinned. At first, it was only temporary salary cuts, but temporary had turned into permanent. Jennifer's salary, once $80,000 a year, had dwindled down to a near minimum wage. The numbers were clear in her neatly kept records. Each month, her paycheck slipped further and further, while her responsibilities only grew. Then came Patricia. Her younger sister had graduated from college just a year ago. Unlike Jennifer, Patricia didn't struggle through long nights of work or wrestle with piles of contracts. She swept into the company in a whirlwind of perfume, designer handbags, and entitlement. Their mother insisted she be given a high starting salary. Appearances matter, Margaret had said firmly. She's young, and she needs to maintain her lifestyle. From day one, Patricia's paycheck was nearly triple Jennifer's. Her BMW gleamed outside in the parking lot. She wore a new pearl necklace every other week, new shoes that cost more than Jennifer's monthly rent, and a smug smile that never failed to sting. The most bitter part was the silence of their father. Robert sometimes looked apologetically at Jennifer, but he never opposed Margaret's decisions. He seemed tired, weighed down by years of keeping the company afloat, and unwilling to fight the battles that mattered. Jennifer bore it all quietly. She worked harder. She signed new contracts. She won referrals from satisfied clients. She kept the numbers up, and all the while, she endured her shrinking pay and her parents' endless indulgence of her younger sister. But today would be different. Today was the monthly salary review meeting. In the conference room, the morning light was pale and cold. filtering in through wide blinds. 4 people sat around the table, but the atmosphere was tense enough to silence even the ticking wall clock. Jennifer sat upright, her binder in front of her. Inside it were her pay stubs, evidence of her shrinking salary, and performance reports she had worked on late into the night. On the very first page of her notes she had written in red ink, "Last chance." Patricia lounged across from her, scrolling through her smartphone. Her manicured nails glittered under the fluorescent lights, her perfume filling the room. Every few seconds, she smirked at her screen, completely detached from the meeting. Robert shuffled the financial documents with a weary sigh. His once proud face, marked by age and exhaustion, looked defeated. Margaret, in her pearl necklace and flawless makeup, sat like a queen overseeing a court. Her eyes, unreadable, flicked between her daughters. Jennifer drew a deep breath. "Dad, Mom, Patricia, please, let's discuss my salary." Margaret waved her hand dismissively, her bracelet clinking. "This again? Jennifer, you know the company is struggling." Jennifer steadied her voice. "Yes, I know, but these," she slid forward, "the performance reports, are the results of my work. Customer satisfaction has risen 15%. Cancellations are at an all-time low. New contracts are up 20%, most of them referrals from Lakeview Estate." She pushed the documents toward her parents, her hands trembling slightly. "My salary has fallen from $80,000 to barely minimum wage, and yet the company's performance—" "Stop with the numbers." Margaret cut her off sharply. For the first time, her tone wavered with something like panic. "We're family. Isn't it natural to sacrifice for the family? You're living in company housing, aren't you? Isn't that enough?" At that very moment, Patricia's phone chimed. A bright sound echoed in the quiet room. She smirked as she glanced at the screen. "Salary deposit complete minus $8,000. Patricia turned the screen toward Jennifer with a mocking grin. "See, sis, that's what real value looks like. Unlike me, you don't really contribute much." The words hit Jennifer like a slap. Her chest tightened. For a second, she couldn't breathe. 10 years of memories, the late nights, the client letters, the pride she once felt, flashed before her eyes like fragile glass shattering. Her hand went to her cheek. A single tear had slipped down, but she brushed it away before anyone could notice. "I see," she whispered. Her voice was steady, almost frighteningly calm. "So, I have no value." The room fell silent. Jennifer rose, her binder pressed tightly against her chest. "I understand now." She left the conference room without another word. At her desk, she pulled out a cardboard box and began packing. One by one, she placed inside the objects that had defined her 10 years, the plant Benjamin, the first pen she had used to sign a contract, thank you letters from clients, the family photo taken when she had joined. Finally, she lifted the framed photo of her smiling family. For a moment, she stared at it, then slipped the picture into the box and dropped the empty frame into the trash. The glass cracked with a sharp sound that echoed across the office. Her parents and Patricia rushed out, stunned. "Jennifer, what are you doing?" Robert's voice trembled. "Stop this nonsense," Margaret cried. Patricia smirked again. "Oh, come on, sis, don't sulk like a child." Jennifer bowed once, deeply, to them all. "Thank you for everything." Then she walked past them, her steps firm, her back straight. She did not look back. Outside, the spring sunlight wrapped her in a soft glow. Her hair came loose from its clip, falling down in waves that swayed in the breeze. She carried the box in her arms, her head high, and for the first time in 10 years, she called a taxi instead of driving the company car. As the cab pulled away from the office building, Jennifer looked out at the cityscape she had passed every day for a decade. Somehow, today, it seemed different. Somehow, it looked like the beginning of something new. The taxi window reflected Jennifer's face as the city lights blurred into streaks. She leaned her head back, closing her eyes slightly. Her heart was heavy, but steady. Deep down, she knew this was the right choice, the only choice left after years of silence, overwork, and unspoken resentment. The following morning, the Miller Property Management office carried an unusual stillness. Normally, by this hour, Jennifer would have already finished tidying the desks, prepared the meeting notes, and started brewing the first pot of coffee. The comforting aroma would drift through the halls, signaling the beginning of another bustling day. But now, the air was thick and stagnant, the silence pressing against the walls like a warning. At exactly 7:05, Sarah from accounting arrived. She fumbled for the light switch, blinking as the fluorescent bulbs hummed awake. Her eyes swept across the office uneasily. Something felt wrong. The cheerful green plant Jennifer had nurtured, affectionately named Benjamin, was gone. Jennifer's desk, usually stacked with neatly filed papers and color-coded folders, had been completely cleared. Strange, Jennifer's desk is, Sarah began softly, but before she could finish, the reception phone rang sharply, slicing through the silence. "Hello, Miller Property Management," Sarah answered, her voice uncertain. "Good morning. This is the Lakeview Estate Management Association, regarding the urgent repairs we requested yesterday." Sarah froze. Jennifer had been responsible for that case. I apologize. I'll need to confirm who's handling it now." "We asked Jennifer. We only want to speak with her." The caller's tone hardened with impatience. Just then, the sharp click of designer heels echoed through the office. Patricia swept in, her new handbag swinging proudly from her arm. Sarah handed her the receiver. "Patricia, Lakeview Estate is on the line." Patricia adjusted her tone, smooth and practiced. "Hello, this is Miller. I'm sorry for the delay." "Where is Jennifer?" "My sister." "That's enough. We'll postpone the contract renewal. We'll be discussing this at the association meeting today." The line went dead. Patricia stood frozen, color draining from her face. Lakeview Estate wasn't just another client, it was their most important one. If they pulled out, the company would be crippled. By the time Robert and Margaret arrived, the office had descended into confusion. Employees whispered in corners, unease spreading like wildfire. "What's going on here?" Margaret demanded, her voice trembling with panic. Before anyone could answer, Carol from accounting rushed in, clutching a stack of papers. Her face was pale. "This is terrible. The tax documents, there's an entire pile of them, all expired." The discovery unleashed a flood of chaos. Patricia's desk, hidden under glossy magazines and unopened mail, revealed mountains of neglected paperwork, tax forms, payroll files, insurance documents, all left undone. "No," Robert dropped into a chair, his voice hollow. By afternoon, angry calls from major clients poured in. Margaret tried desperately to reassure them, but her polished words were met with cold skepticism. By evening, 3 of their top clients, including Lakeview Estate, had sent official notices that they were reviewing contracts. The Miller empire was starting to unravel. The next morning revealed an even more devastating blow, a tax audit notice buried in Patricia's neglected pile. The deadline was looming, and nothing had been prepared. I didn't know about that," Patricia stammered, her lipstick trembling along with her lips. "You didn't know?" For the first time, Margaret's control snapped. Her voice thundered across the office, shaking Patricia into silence. As the days passed, morale collapsed. 1 week later, Tom from sales walked into Robert's office, resignation letter in hand. "Without Jennifer, I can't work here anymore." 3 more employees soon followed. Clients pulled away. Within 2 weeks, nearly half of their contracts had been terminated. Sales plummeted by 70%. The bank, once friendly, now demanded urgent loan reviews. And when the tax auditors arrived, Patricia's reckless accounting was exposed in full. Unpaid invoices stacked up on Robert's desk. The bank account drained to dangerous lows. "How did it come to this?" Margaret whispered, her expensive rings flashing uselessly beneath the harsh office lights as tears smudged her makeup. Patricia, once flaunting luxury cars and handbags, was forced to sell her BMW and cut her shopping sprees. The once vibrant office plants wilted, their leaves withering without Jennifer's daily care. The final blow came in a single envelope. Lakeview Estate officially terminated their contract. Robert read the letter aloud, his voice cracking. "Following Jennifer Miller's resignation, we have determined it is no longer possible to continue our business relationship with your company." The paper slipped from his hands. Silence fell. The company his father had built, the legacy Jennifer had protected, was crumbling before his eyes. The office air conditioning shut down with a loud crash. An unpaid utility bill fluttered across the floor. Sunlight from the window cast long, golden shadows, a cruel reminder of better days. Weeks later, in a quiet residential neighborhood on the edge of Grand Rapids, Jennifer's apartment doorbell rang. "Jennifer, please hear us out," came Robert's weary voice. When she opened the door, the sight startled her. Her once proud parents looked broken. Robert's back was hunched. Margaret's carefully crafted image destroyed by tear-streaked makeup and graying roots. Their designer clothes were replaced by simple, plain outfits. "I'm sorry, truly sorry." Robert bent low, his forehead nearly touching the floor. Margaret bowed deeply too, sobbing. Patricia, however, leaned against the wall, arms crossed and lips pouting. "The company's falling apart because you left. You should come back immediately." "Be quiet," Margaret snapped suddenly, her voice sharp and raw. "Do you realize how much damage your carelessness has caused?" Tears streamed down her face as she turned back to Jennifer. "We were wrong. It was all arrogance." Jennifer set 3 mugs of tea on the table, the same ones once used at the office, ironically labeled "World's Best Dad" and "To My Beloved Mother." She spoke calmly, her voice steady. "What do you want from me?" Robert swallowed hard. "We want you back, but not just to return as CEO." Patricia gasped. "No way. She can't run the company." "Enough." Robert's voice boomed. "Your incompetence has been exposed. This company needs Jennifer." Margaret pulled out an old photograph, a family portrait from the early days of the company. Jennifer's bright smile radiated from the picture. Margaret's hand shook as she placed it on the table. "We stole that smile, but I believe it's not too late. Jennifer, please rebuild the company. Rebuild our family." Jennifer stood silently, then walked to the window. Outside, the spring wind scattered cherry blossoms across the street, a symbol of change, of rebirth. She turned back, her expression firm. "I'll return, but under conditions." Her parents leaned forward, listening. "First, I will have full authority as CEO. No family interference." Robert nodded without hesitation. "Second, employee salaries will be corrected. A proper system of performance and recognition will be introduced." Margaret agreed softly. "And third," Jennifer's voice hardened, "all unpaid wages from the last 2 years must be paid in full." Robert stammered, "But we don't have the funds." "There is a way." Jennifer laid a folder on the table. "Since leaving, I've been speaking with investors. They're ready to support us, if we restructure properly." Patricia scoffed. "So we're just supposed to do whatever Big Sister says?" Margaret snapped. Her hand struck Patricia's cheek with a sharp crack. "Do you understand how much your selfishness destroyed us?" Patricia finally fell silent, her arrogance stripped away. Robert bowed low once more. "We accept all of it. Jennifer, forgive me for failing you as a father and as a leader." Jennifer's eyes softened, though her resolve remained strong. Outside the window, petals danced in the breeze. It was the beginning of something new.